Everybody, I'm out visiting Fox Cove, out visiting my parents. I'm going to give you a little tour of my hometown. Hope you enjoy it. So this right here is my parents' place. This is where I spent the latter few years of my life around here. As you can see, the view is just amazing. And my dad's boat, named after my daughter, Leah C., Leah Catherine. Some of the best neighbors you could ask for right there. Murphys, great bunch of people. Growing up, we used to spend a lot of time on this hill. We used to go sliding. Down there's where I used to spend a lot of my time at my good buddy's Paddy Kavanagh at his place and his grandmother's house there. There used to be an old pig's pen or a chicken coop down there, and we turned it into a clubhouse at one point. Dirty, disgusting, but hey, it was fun. We survived it. Speaking of surviving though, we used to come up here on the sleds and we'd slide down to the bottom. Sometimes we'd try to go across that gulch. If you look in there closer, there's like a dip in the bottom. We used to try to fly over that on our sleds. It didn't work out so well sometimes. But yeah, we'd slide down and shoot across the road without getting killed most of the time. If you look down there, you can see where the driveway is at the bottom. That's where we'd end up going. We'd shoot across the road and sometimes out into that where the brook area is there next to that building. Fun times. You can get a better view here of the gulch, is what we used to call it, where we'd fly across. Right in here is where the pig's pen used to be that we turned into a clubhouse, and you can see the gap there. Yeah, the gulch. We used to fly across that on our sleds. At least in our heads we were flying. We probably didn't go that far. Used to be an old church here. There's a lot of stories I could tell you about that spot. Up this way is where my Uncle Norbert used to live. Him and my aunt and my cousins. It's all grown in there now, but we spent a lot of time up there. We'd actually start way up at the top of the hill and get on one of those horse sleds, and we'd slide down. And we'd manage to, I can't remember which way we'd go, but somehow we got around the church and we'd end up straight down to the beach. This is where my uncle used to live years ago. My grandfather's brother. Been in that house quite a few times. Another good childhood friend used to live in there, Sean Welsh. Spent an awful lot of time there as well. This used to be all a field and dirt and all that. We used to play cars and trucks in the mud and make little paths and roads. Have ramps set up there as well. Fly on our bicycles. You'd never say it by looking here, but it used to be a hall here, community center. Used to have garden parties, dances, the whole works. Going over now, but up behind me there used to be a softball field in there as well. And a lot of time spent playing pop-ups, or playing grounders, I guess. Pop-ups, yeah. I forget what the game was called now. We used to just hit the ball, try to catch it, and you get so many points, depending on if it's a pop-up, a grounder, one bounce, that kind of thing. But yeah, it used to be named after my grandfather as well, Edmund Antle. So this is Fox Cove, walking into it. Now you can see the appeal. We used to be down playing inside those little brooks, and then when the water was really calm, you'd catch those little water bugs. We used to call them doctors. You can't see it now because it's all grown in, but up there you have Crow's Rock, and we spent a lot of time climbing up there. We used to go up on top of the rock and run and jump off and land on the tops of the trees below. Yeah, we watched one too many Rambo movies. Up that way is the road that leads out to Albert Foot's, Long's Point. And that's where you have the Foots, the Parties, all the Antles that live up there, plus the Duties. This is the bottom of that hill I was telling you about that we used to slide down. Up there is Patty's grandmother's and Patty's parents' place, their old place. We used to slide down and shoot across the road. This right here is Fox Cove Beach. God, the amount of time we spent here growing up, it's amazing. Surprised I survived it though. We used to climb out on all those cliffs, all along the cliffs, as far as we could go. Right out around that point that you can see. We also used to climb the other direction, starting from here, and work our way all the way around the cliffs. That's where the cove exits. Used to spend a lot of time snorkeling and swimming here. Loved it. It was great. Capelin come in, we'd have Capelin fights all across this beach. Way over off in the distance, that's where my one of my relatives lives, Leo Antle. Beautiful spot. I always said to Mom, if there was one place in Fox Cove that I had the chance to choose it, it would be that spot right there. So far off in the corner, tucked away. Perfect. From the beach, if you look up, you can see those little poles kind of sticking up on the left there. That's my parents' house. You can see the flag poles and the roof of the house sticking up there. So we're pretty close to the beach. When we were kids, we'd be all up here climbing around all the time. You see how high that is? In the winter months, when the snow would drift at the bottom, we would actually come here, run, and jump off into those snowbanks. Again, it's a surprise we survived, but somehow we did. This right here is my parents' house. Beauty of a spot. Right next to my grandmother's house. We used to spend a lot of time up on that little knoll. There was trees clumped together right here, a bit bigger when I was growing up, and we used to have a little clubhouse there. Not really a clubhouse, we just basically hung out beneath the branches and called it a clubhouse. And that tree there, I remember having a rope hung on it and I swung off it, trying to be Spider-Man. But I fell off the rope and landed right on my back. And that knocked the wind right out of me. This right here is where my grandmother used to live. This is where my parents grew up, or my mom grew up. Their shed. Played in that shed a lot growing up. I lived with my grandmother for a while, a few years before I joined the military. I used to live up in that top left bedroom right there. A lot of great memories in that house. Yeah, lots of great memories. One of my mom's sisters lives right there, Philomena. Again, spent a lot of time there as well. Lots of nice memories when you walk around and reflect. This is another spot we used to hang out a lot growing up. Well, obviously it's right next to my grandparents' house. And we used to come down here and we'd go down climbing around the cliffs. That big rock there, we'd have contests to see who could jump off it. And we did pretty good. We used to jump right off the top of it. But I did get stupid a couple times. Like there was one winter, myself and Sean Welsh were here and there was snow on the ground and had that layer of crust above it. That you could easily shoot like a bullet down over the hill. And I got it in my head I was going to slide down. My plan was to sit there on my butt, slide down, and stop before it hits the ocean. But it didn't go that way. I slid down, and right where you see those rusted culverts, I bounced off a knob and went out over the cliff. And I landed on my head on a rock on the bottom. And poor Sean didn't know what to do. He looks at me, do you want me to get help? And I remembered, I think that was when my sarcasm was born. He says, no, bye, I don't. Just joking. Anyway, he went for help. He got Jimmy Dimmer, who lives in that house right there. And he came down with a rope and came out around the rock and helped me out of there. And I went to the hospital and got a few stitches. Look right here. You can see the scar there. Depends on the angle. That's a scar from that time. Remember Dick Smith used to have a boat down there. First time I ever went cod jigging was with him. Eileen Dimmer used to have a house right there. A lot of memories there as well. Uncle Joe, Ray Whitten, they all lived in that way. I was having a chat with Paddy Kavanagh a few weeks ago. We were talking about Jimmy Dimmer, who used to live right here, and how every time you walk by, you have that smell of fresh bark being cleared off poles, because he always had a string of poles, wood drying out. Yeah, every time I get that smell, that's where my head goes. A house right here one time as well. Miss Minnie Dimmer used to live there, and we'd always come out in the fall and raid her plum trees. She used to get some pissed at us. Up there's where Teresa and Leo Dimmer used to live, and my good friend Nancy, good childhood friends. We hung out a lot. Lots of good memories with her. Right here on the left used to be a convenience store. It used to be Dimmer store years ago, and this house we actually used to rent it. This is the first house I lived in when I moved to Fox Cove. Oh yeah, earlier when I mentioned it was Dick Smith who owned the boat, I was wrong. It was actually Felix Dimmer. It just came to me, sorry. Oh look, my hat's messed up. There, that's better. It's getting old. But yeah, it was Felix Dimmer, and yeah. The house that used to be there, that's where Carolyn Dimmer used to live. Remember, she used to always call me a rooster. Rooster growing up. At one point, this used to belong to the Drakes. Used to belong to Maurice Drake, Anne-Marie Drake's Drake. That was quite a while ago. Over that way, behind those trees, which weren't there when I was growing up, that's where Craig Dimmer grew up. And Lenore, Herb, Anne-Marie, and the Moultons, Bobby and Betty. I gotta say, one thing that's hard every time I come out here to visit is leaving. Very difficult. It wasn't always that way. It's only the last few years that I've been getting this really strong pull. Yeah, it's a strong one to move back this way. So we'll see what happens. I got a wife who's still working, yet not all of us are free to roam around and wander aimlessly like I am. That's my aunt's house again there, Philomena's, Meanie. I remember she used to have a set of swings behind there, and I'll never forget, I remember Cavell, her oldest daughter, rest in peace, she could do amazing things on that swing. She'd be flipping over and just almost like one of those gymnasts you see on the rails. She was pretty good at that kind of stuff. I remember she used to climb the walls all the time in the house, put 2 feet on, 1 foot on either side of the door frame and make her way up. She was good at that. And back to my parents' place. Yeah, I gotta go from this again on Monday to neighbors that are right up your ass. That's it. The joys of living in St. John's. Places like this have me spoiled. So right here is Jericho Pond. This is where we spent all our time swimming growing up as kids. There used to be a diving board down that way. We also did a lot of hiking. We'd spend some time up there on Dog's Head. It was just what you did for fun. We didn't have video games, so we played outside, and that's all we had. It was great. A lot of swimming. This is the house where your great-grandfather used to live. This is where Jay's, Vince Dimmer used to live here. A long time ago.